Hi everyone, Julia here recording this June 3rd, 2025. And I have my buddy here, Garry Murphy. We almost have the same last name. And he is in Glastonbury. And you can see here on the screen, he runs this radio show, Radio Free Avalon. And yeah, Garry, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure, Julia. Um, Started broadcasting a couple of months ago now, and the idea I had was like to create a platform for everything that's going on in Glastonbury. For the size of the place, there's a lot going on many levels, and there's a, a really big creative scene. A lot of musicians, poets, storytellers, and there's also a lot of people who you could say are awakened, aware on their spiritual journeys. So there's a lot of people who have things to share, their opinions and views. So I thought, let's create a platform for this. I felt that what's going on in the town deserves a wider audience. So yeah, I've just been getting files. Haven't got a studio as yet, but I'm just getting files from local artists and people sending uh, MP3 files of basically any topic of their choosing. So, the core ethos of the station is um, freedom of expression, and that includes speech. So that's the idea behind it. And it's still in its infant stage. I'm a tech tard, so I, I have a friend who built the site, and I'm still learning the ropes, how to manage it efficiently. But I'm getting there, and eventually, I'd like to look further afield for content. But at the moment, I'm just going to focus on the Glastonbury area and see where it takes us. I was at a festival recently and I connected with some people who were doing internet radio stations in the UK, on a similar themes. So so yeah, I'm quite pleased how it's coming together so far.
Yeah, it's very cool. I think it's a good idea. And Glastonbury is just such a well-known place for all its magic and mysticism. And like you said, a lot of people there, they come together and they're doing their shadow work. They're awake people. Very different environment than most places.
Yeah,
So,
I mean it's definitely an energy spot, and that attracts people to it. I mean, historically, it wasn't really a place where people lived. It was a place where hermits lived, and the abbey was always there for centuries, and druid places of worship. Um, it can be a challenging place to live. The energy's there. You see a lot of people who can can kind of get unbalanced with what's going on there, and because it's an energy spot, it attracts the light and the shadow, if you like. So yeah, there's levels to it.
right, and you said you definitely feel energy difference there. Um, Most people
Yeah,
say
but
that.
that saying, sometimes you don't realize you're in the fire till you step out of it. Well, I have that experience regularly because it can be an intense place to be. Everything's amplified because the energy's there, so you feel things more intensely, on the emotional, mental level.
Right? So your empathy is amplified.
Yes, it can be. Yeah.
or whatever you're feeling, I guess.
All
So,
emotions can
mhm.
feel amplified. Yeah,
So that's a good reason to get that emotional healing work done, right? And we were talking,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
And so Garry came to visit here in Portugal. And so when you went back, did you notice the energy a lot more after being away from it?
Uh, no, it wasn't something I really picked up on immediately coming back. But one thing I am noticing is subtle changes in how people are relating to me, responding to me. And I'm putting that down to a raise in my frequency. Because, what are we but mirrors for each other, eh?
Yep.
And so, yeah, that's something I've been picking up on since the healing.
Right. And Garry's experienced Mace Energy Method as well as the Biofield Tuning and the combo of those. And he says he's getting good results. He's feeling a shift and he's persevered at this because I think the first time you had Mace was about a year ago. And he just kept persisting and had the intention that he wanted that shift. And now he's getting to that point. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, I still have faith in the method because I went through about 8 sessions. Sorry, no, 4 2-hour sessions I had with a lady in the UK via Zoom. And at the end of it, I still felt I had faith that, it would work. It was some resistance I was putting up around it, quite a high ridge I needed to get over. But I think the mistake I made the first time round was trying to focus on upsets that were like way, way back from the beginning of my life. Whereas my session with you, I was focusing on on recent upsets, which I had stronger mental images around. And I think that was why the session with you was effective this time. And also coupled with the other therapies. So, yeah.
Yeah, because we also used auricular chromotherapy and biofield tuning. So you were my first person that I practiced the auricular chromotherapy on. And that was effective for one of your upsets, but then the second upset, it didn't quite work. So then we ran the MACE process, and that seemed to work. And yeah, that's the cool thing about either one of those modalities, and they're similar in that way where you think of an upset, and it doesn't matter when the upset was, it'll still, your higher self knows there's something important there that needs to be dealt with, and it'll come through because what happens is you get these upsets early in life and you get this judgment about yourself that you carry all through your life, and it comes up in upset current as well as that very first one it happened in. So it really doesn't matter which upset comes up, it's going to lead to something that needs to be handled. And with Mace, we just create that negative identity. So pretty cool. I'm glad that
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
finally got those results you were looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel it was definitely worth the mission to get to you.
And so we were talking a little bit earlier, Garry and I, about some of the stuff that's going on in the ether these days. Like there seems to be a lot of drama between um, content creators and people and their spouses. And I think if all these people would get the emotional healing they need, and especially with these simple ways like Mace Energy Method and auricular chromotherapy, they wouldn't feel like they're the victim so much. Because I think that's what happens to most people is they get in that victim mindset and they feel like they're the effect instead of the cause. And, you know, I think when you embark on a lot of emotional healing work, which you have obviously done, and I feel like I have too, you get to that honest self-awareness place where you realize your part in things that happen to you. So, and it's a really powerful place to be too, because you are powerful enough to create your reality and not just be, you know, have to deal with anything that bombards you and comes your way. And it seems like when you get to these frequency, I call it optimal frequency because one of my mentors, Eileen McCusick, the Biofield Tuning lady, she doesn't like the word high vibration because it can also, she's like, well, fear can be high vibration too. You know, if you're stressed out, you're kind of vibing high or whatever, anxiety. So always just go with optimal frequency. And that's what this kind of work does. It gets you to that optimal frequency to where you just get that bigger picture and you just handle things and then your whole life seems to start flowing. Things just open up for you. So
Yeah. Yeah. Being the best version of yourself.
right. And yeah. And yeah, and it just gets you to with that honest self-awareness, it just gets easier with time. And you see how things just don't trigger you that in the past they would you might get angry over something and then you just go, oh, what's the point of getting angry? You see that. You're like, yeah, why even go there? So yeah. And I don't know, when people don't do this kind of work, they're just so reactive. They're reactive. And you were saying earlier that you were responding differently to situations.
Yeah, yeah, that was definitely proof in the pudding for me. Yeah, yeah,
And even the way people were responding to you, right?
yeah, yeah. And I put that down to, to my energy levels increasing and my well-being, overall well-being increasing. I think that has had an effect of because I'm feeling more positive in myself. People are mirroring it back to me. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, I really think that's how it works for sure. And it's just how you feel about yourself. That's how people are going to see you. And I and then Tom Campbell the other day I heard him say, you need to treat people the way you would like them to be, not how they are. And I thought that was a good way to kind of
Yeah,
right and how you would like them to be. And you kind of get to that
because
point,
it keeps judgments out of it, doesn't it?
right, right, and you can see, you realize when people are not acting kind or whatever, you realize that, it's because they're at that level in their evolution and in their consciousness where they just haven't gotten there yet, and you can really feel some empathy for them instead of judgment towards them.
Yeah, yeah,
But that's a big plus for sure.
yeah.
Makes things
What people call the spiritual journey. That it's about healing, isn't it? That's to become whole, you have to heal.
right. Yeah, you can't just talk the talk. You see people that say that they're spiritual teachers, but then you watch their behavior and you can tell they haven't really done that work.
Yeah,
So, and
yeah.
that's
But I have experience of that in the past. I was in the Hare Krishna community for over 20 years and, practicing it diligently, living in temples, ashrams. And then when I left, I realized I was just transcending my suffering. when I stopped the practices, all the shit was still there, unaddressed. so, so yeah, that was definitely the realization I took away from that experience.
Right, and they spend lifetimes and never get anywhere. And then you find these simple methods, there's something in the ether now. These energy healing methods, modalities are just coming to fruition in all kinds of angles. And even John Mace, feels like he pulled this out of the Akashic records, it was channeled to him in a way. And I think humanity's kind of at that cusp where these kind of things are happening because as far as we know from history, we've never been at a time like this before where there's, just such a big change that's about to happen. Everybody that's here now can feel it. And I almost feel like everybody that's here now is here for a purpose, because it's such a
Yeah.
crucial time for humanity. But I think I got off the point of what you were just talking about and I forgot what it was.
Oh, about
Oh,
the
yeah, the Hare Krishnas.
yeah,
Yeah, but just spending that much time and never getting there. And then these new modalities, like Mace Energy Method, well, you were one of the people that took the long route, and even that was only 10 hours or so of work, right, compared to a lifetime of work. And, you know, we've kind of got emotional healing and spiritual. I don't like the word spiritual ascension, but anyway, we're at the 4.0 level of that instead of, the
yeah,
beginner version
expansion
of
and
it.
awareness,
What did you say?
an expansion of awareness.
Right, there you go. That's a good way to look at it. And healing, from that trauma and just those, getting rid of those negative thoughts and the unwarranted negative feelings, getting out of all that whole rut.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's doable, and it doesn't take your lifetime to do it, and
Yeah,
and there's lots of modalities. These aren't the only ones. And even Tom Campbell says, as long as you really have the intention to heal and you want to do it from the being level, you'll get there, and intention is the number one component, I think, for anybody getting to that content point, in their life where they don't have those negative thoughts and feelings and reacting all the time. So, yeah, putting that intention out there is huge.
yeah, and the beauty of the modality is that it doesn't require disclosure. Going into your stories, cementing it more into your identity.
Right.
So yeah, that's something that I think is
Well,
powerful.
they've been doing that in psychiatry for decades now, and it hasn't, there's no results are coming through,
Yeah,
and it just makes things worse for a lot of people to have to keep reliving it in their head. And the truth is, we don't bring what happened into the future. We only bring how it made us feel, and that's what we deal with, those feelings. And so that's what you have to address, not the actual event. And that's what's really beautiful about, these healing modalities, especially Mace Energy Method and auricular chromotherapy. You don't have either one of those, or you don't need to disclose any details. You just need to, feel the feeling, think about it, an upset for a minute, and take it from there. So
yeah,
pretty cool stuff.
yeah.
So you've had quite a life experience. Didn't you say you lived in India for a while?
Well, through my Hare Krishna days, I spent a lot of time there. Um, I mean, like the relationship between India and the UK means you can never stay there for long periods of time. Um, but I would stay, as long as the visas allowed, usually. So yeah, my time would be divided between India and England.
And so I guess you prefer England,
Uh, well, I mean, with India, it's you've got the country and then the cities, and the cities are hellish. Delhi, Mumbai, Calcutta, these places, hell on earth. Once you get out into the country, get up north, Himalayas, then that's when you see the real beauty and charm of India. So, yeah, I always had this love-hate relationship with the place.
right? I can see why. And it seems like you like living up high,
Yeah, safe ground.
right? You're ready for the Phoenix event, right?
Oh, I'm sure I'll be in the right place at the right time.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got no fears around that one.
Yeah. Can't fear death because it's inevitable and it's not really death anyway. So
Yeah, just transition.
that's the big trick that they try to push on us and program us to think.
Oh yeah,
And once you fear death, you fear everything that could possibly lead to that. And you end up with situations like people that wore masks in their cars while they're driving alone.
yeah, yeah. That's the biggie for most of us, isn't it? And it's around the fear of the unknown. But once we conquer that, work through it, then that allows us to get the knowing that we're eternal.
Right. Yeah. And, that's the most powerful thing to do is get rid of your fear.
Yeah, yeah,
When, when the fear's gone, it's just automatically replaced with its opposite, which is love. And, you know, that's what's going to change the world if it can be changed. There a lot of people say they have their prophecies and predictions, but I'm always saying staying hopeful and um, just putting my intention out to have a good, positive future. I don't really want to live in a dystopian technocracy with reptilian robots or whatever. But whatever happens, I know that it's all good in the end, in the big picture, because at this point, at my age, it's really a small little blip in the time that I exist. So just enjoying the show and seeing where it goes.
yeah, yeah,
Because a lot of people have so much fear about the future, especially with all the AI talk and
yeah.
everything.
I've got to embrace the uncertainty of it all.
Right. And it's always uncertain, right?
Yeah,
The only thing that's certain is uncertainty.
yeah,
Well, yeah, just have to know it's going to be what it is and you're always going to be okay because you can't really die. So, end of story.
yeah,
So, you also do spoken word, correct?
yeah. That's right. I go by the name Murphy's, and not usually getting gigs with what I say, in the woke world of poetry. But
Oh, is poetry a big woke?
yeah, it's the same as the comedy scene. There's a narrow bandwidth of what you're allowed to rhyme.
Right. Interesting. Well, would you like to share some of your work?
Yeah, I could give you one if you like.
Sure.
Um, Millennial woes. May you live in interesting times, to borrow a Chinese proverb. Times where speaking the truth has become the new hate speech, thought crime. So careful what you rhyme, or you're for the gulag to languish for a time. So stand politically corrected and sanitize what you say. LGBT, good times to be gay. With Sharia law impending, only heaven knows the outcome or the ending of millennial woes. Adversity, uncertainty, perversities abound, with no guiding moral compass to those higher moral grounds. Now the Queen's in Covent Garden, stealing designer clothes. The King is in the crack house. Oh, millennial woes. Ferocious, fearsome feministas getting on the case. Say gender's social construct and no such thing as race. Social justice warriors wail oppressed minority blues at the homophobes and xenophobes and their unenlightened views. With patriarchal power structures in death throes, the future's looking fluffy. Oh, millennial woes.
Excellent.
Sees in Tesco's showing signs of PTSD from the shift in demographics of UK PLC, with its multi-culti miseries and false flag horror shows and a future looking feudal. Oh, millennial woes. Atomized, desensitized, entertained, amused, hypnotized, dehumanized, in a word, confused, confused. For everything's inverted, everything's reversed, upside down, subverted. It's a generation cursed. Now nihilism, narcissism, pessimism grows. Them salad days are over. Oh, millennial woes. For it's all so micromanaged, so meticulously planned by big banks and think tanks and many a hidden hand of the social engineers who plot the highs and lows of the much maligned millennials. Oh, millennial woes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Excellent. Very. Yeah, I'll have to listen to that a few times. That was amazing. So
Yeah.
do you have that? Is that some of that on your radio station?
Do you know I haven't got round to uploading anything of my stuff yet? But I was performing at a festival last week and someone recorded it, so I'm just waiting to get that back, and I was going to upload that. So yeah,
Yeah, that's really well done, well written, well spoken. Very impressed. Very impressed.
thank you.
So yeah, well,
I haven't
so
got much of a reputation around Glastonbury. There's a strong bardic tradition there. You know like going back from the Druid days of bards. So they have like the bardic chair. So I'm just looked upon as someone whose poetry is too coarse and vulgar and controversial for a public platform now. So, but hey,
you're ahead of your time. You're ahead of your time. Well, do you have another one you could do?
uh, yeah, I could share another if you like.
All right. Yeah, please.
Okay, this one's a deep dark dive into the entertainment industrial complex. Tavistock transgender teens make captivating catwalk queens, arriving in stretch limousines to pose for glossy magazines. As they strut the red carpet, cross the threshold to hell and damnation for goat gods and gold. Acclaim, awards, rewards received for playing the part, a role believed by a gullible public, duped, deceived, by lifetime actors, cloned, conceived, by the culture creators whose souls are sold, selling idols and icons for goat gods and gold. Oaths are taken, lips are sealed, society secrets kept concealed, rituals, rites, and rules revealed, whence contracts signed in blood congealed. Now you're in the club, you join the fold for fast fame and fortune, for goat gods and gold. Handlers lurking in the wings, puppet masters pulling strings. Symbols trigger pretty things. Black guy raps, white girl sings. MK Ultra, mind controlled. Reborn in rehab for goat gods and gold. Born into bloodlines that crave the limelight, where truth comes hidden in plain sight, with gender inversion for your delight. Hail the holly weird hermaphrodite. So do what thou wilt, but do as you're told, for the glamour and vainglory, for goat gods and gold.
Oh yeah, lots to think about on that one. You've done your rabbit hole work. You've been down your rabbit hole.
Yeah, doesn't opportunity really knocks with performance opportunities. Well, picture it, Julia. You know, you're out with your partner having a quiet drink, and there's some bloke up on the stage telling you everything you've ever been told is a lie. Who's going to pay to hear that?
Right. Well, I don't know. I just think,
Well, hey, I love dropping truth bombs, planting seeds.
right. Yeah, in a very clever, poetic, art-driven way. Love it. Love it.
Well, I
Beautiful.
find satire a powerful weapon.
Yeah.
I think the psychopaths, the brains aren't hotwired for you know the kind of humor that we resonate with. So
Right.
you can push the envelope more, I reckon.
Yeah. So you don't have any recordings of your work yet?
Uh, you know, online, yeah, it's poultry. What I have, I think there's one thing on YouTube someone put up for me, but yeah, self promotion's never been one of my strengths, really.
Right. Well, it's good stuff. I think a lot of people would like to hear it. So I'm
Well,
glad
I
you
think
came
I
on.
finally found my audience with it. The festival I was at last week, it was organised by some folk in the UK who print an alternative uh, newspaper called the Light Paper. It comes out monthly, so they set a festival up. So uh, yeah, it was quite inspiring. You know, good morale booster being around a whole bunch of people on the same page, more or less. You know, so. Uh,
Yeah,
I'll be
and
invited
less
to another
too.
one in July. So yeah,
Well, you live in a very good place for that. It's not going to happen in too many locations in this realm. So
well, we
you've
still
done,
have some semblance of free speech here. So you know, let's make hay
yeah,
while the sun shines.
and just the density of open-minded people. You know, you don't get that in very many locations.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of bullshit in town. You know, it's heavily infected by the new cage. You know,
Right,
so there's all that to deal with. You know, all the denial and the shadow.
right.
Love and life.
All right. Well, very cool. I think. Do you have anything else you'd like to share?
Uh, Nothing's coming to mind at the moment. This is my
Yeah.
first time I've ever done anything like this, so
Yeah, I appreciate you doing this because I was telling you when you were visiting, I'd like to start doing some podcasts. And so you agreed to be a guest. And I'm actually going to be on someone else's podcast tomorrow.
Okay,
And I'll send links out and I'll put your link to your website and your Facebook page in the description on this one.
thank you.
And I guess you have a Facebook page too, right? Just your Garry,
No, no, I did have. I came off it last year. It was getting too
right?
toxic for me.
Right.
But
Yeah,
I've kept the radio station one going, for notifications and stuff.
right. And it sounds like a cool station for people who want to kind of get a feel for the Glastonbury music vibe and art vibe in general. And I
Yeah,
know a lot of people are drawn to that.
yeah. There's quite a hot potato going around town at the moment because they're trying to change the town to the council are pushing hard to have the place made into a World Heritage status place. So there's been quite a pushback from a lot of the local community around it. Most people aren't aware of the bigger agenda, the Agenda 2030 stuff that it's connected to ultimately. But a lot of people just don't want, the huge influx of tourism it'll bring because the town's already swamped, especially in the summer, you know.
Right. Plus, won't they take some people's property and stuff if they do that? Because
Well, yeah,
they're
it'll just make the housing situation chronic,
right.
There's so
That's
many people
horrible.
living in caravans, around the town. And so, yeah, that'll just exacerbate for sure.
Yeah, not a good plan. Well, hopefully it won't go through. Who knows? Like I said, I'm staying optimistic about the future, and time will tell whether people's predictions and prophecies are true or not. But like we talked about in the beginning, as long as you're fearless and, you know, trying to do good and be good, then all is good.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks again, Garry, and
Okay.
thank
Will
you,
this be
everyone.
going out on your Simplicity Revealed channel then?
It sure is, if that's okay with you.
Cool. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I'll when, when are you planning on posting it?
Right after we finish talking.
Okay. All right. So I'll see it come up. All right. Thank
All
you.
right. Yeah, we'll stay on there for a minute, Garry, and I'll stop the recording. So thanks everyone for listening, and I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. And remember to stay focused on the good and how you want things to be, and always help others if you can. Ciao, ciao. Thanks again, Garry.
Thank you, Julia.
You're welcome.